that's good. All right, how's everybody doing today?
Good, right?
Good to see your commitment to one. Who wants to do more business? Anybody?
I do.
All right. All right. The expressive told us she does. That's good. I like it. All right. A year ago, this last I'm going to say about April, May, no, probably even March. I remember I was standing at the Awakened facility, or used to be Noah's, and we were doing a summit, and I talked about telling people to get their does anybody remember when I started saying you better get your freaking crap in order? And I got pretty direct, and I was like, well, what does he think, sky? He's like, the sky is falling. And I'm like, no, I don't think the sky is falling. I think actually it fell. I mean, that's kind of like it like the market radically changed. And I remember back in May specifically, of course, we were consolidating offices, and we had just sold off California, and we'd done all, and I'd still have people I hear whisperings, people coming at him and go, hey, they really think you're being negative. And I remember I look back and I'm thinking, I don't think I was negative. I was just calling it what it was. And so one of my most important principles that I remember hearing, and years ago, I remember how many years ago, it could have been maybe 10 years ago, but I heard it at a Tony Robbins event. And I'd gone to his business mastery. So write this one down. This is a good one to live life by. And if there's anything that you want to do to tick me off in any type of a boardroom, or we're discussing financials, or we're discussing just the realities of business, mess this one rule up, and it is a good way to get me ticked off. Hopefully that's not going online. There we go. All right, here's the rule. All right, here's the rule. Don't make it worse than this. Get it right, Joanna. Don't make it, or do not make it worse than it is, and do not make it better than it is. Just call it as it is. And that may seem like the most simple statement. Don't make it worse than it is. Don't make it better than it is. Just call it as it is. And anyone who comes into my world, especially on economics or spreadsheets and finances and describing the market conditions or what's going on and making it something more than it is, less than it is, and not calling it how it is highly, highly irritating and frustrating to me. And the reason it is because then you're not getting clear information. I believe that, and I was saying this earlier today, that when you're lost, just figure out where you are. First and foremost, they call a spade. Wherever you are is where you are. And then you could beat yourself up for being where you are, or you could lament and be so sad about what you either have or haven't done, or should have done, shouldn't or should have done. You can do all these different things, but at minimum, just call a spade. So again, don't make it worse than it is. I don't need you to make it better than it is. I don't need you to exaggerate it. I just need you to call it as it is. And so for me, whenever I'm in markets, and I think I've been through 4 or 5 markets that I would equate to something like what we're dealing with, either highs and lows and crashes and rises and all, is just call it as it is. So if at some level for you, if you're lost or you're concerned or you're wanting to go and be somewhere in your career further than where you are, then just get really clear as to where you are. Now, here's the second rule. And that is in so many words, and he says a little differently. I like saying it like this. And that is, number 2 is cast or create the vision of what you want it to be. Basically, what do you want it to be? So look, just think about these rules. Call it as it is. Basically, don't make it worse. Don't make it less. Just call it as it is. Now create the vision. Meaning, in simple words, what do you want it to look like? And get really clear. What do you want? And people say, well, what about rate? You can put your focus on anything. Rates, mortgages, inventory, lack of people putting their homes on the market. I mean, you can focus on anything you want, but the only thing I think everyone would agree, when you're in a good sense of mindset or in a real reality check, is the only thing you can control is not rates, not mortgage program, not inventory, not what other agents are doing, not what I'm doing. You can only control who's doing who, you, me, right? If I'm talking to myself, you're the only one who can control the outcome of where you take your life. So for me, I like to say, okay, look, I'm not going to make it worse. I'm not going to make it better. I just want to call it as it is. All right. Number two, what do I want it to look like? So just take a second, like think about this. What do you want your business to look like? What do you want your income to look like? And look, we are so committed. I'm not saying we, I'm not talking like of the company. I'm talking we as humanity. We are so committed to just simply speaking is what we don't want. Well, I don't want this, and I don't want to be this person. But what do you want? Not what you don't want. What do you want? And all of a sudden, when you start to realize, like, I'm not going to call it worse than it is, better than it is. I'm just going to call it as it is. All right, now what's the vision? What do I want? Then point number three is go execute. Like, go make it happen. Now, it seems like a pretty simple formula. Basically, find out where you are, cast a vision, define exactly where you want to go. Oh, and now go execute, in so many words, to the best of your ability to go get there. And if you go do that, the thing that's so crazy is how often people succeed. The biggest rises in my career have been in difficult markets. I became the #1 real estate agent. I mean, not Aaron, you know, in the state of Utah in 2008. One of the worst economic times in the history of the United States of America. The only time in US history where the real estate market caused the recession. I became #1. I'd call you, Zach, and go, Zach, if you can find anyone in the state of Utah who sold more real estate than me, I'll sell your home for free. And you'd be on the phone going, who are you? Like, what? I can take Everest. So then shortly after that, I still remember getting a call. How many of you know a good friend of mine, Gary Cannon? Anybody know Gary? You know Gary Cannon, Nick, right? Gary Cannon, legend in the industry. I open up Everest. He calls me. What are you doing? I said, what do you mean? What am I doing? He goes, I'm trying to get out of the brokerage business. You're going into it. Yeah, I'm going to go into it. So here's the thing that's interesting to me. There will be people. So you can write this down if you want, but you have three choices. You're either going to remain exactly the same, but I actually don't think you ever actually end up being exactly the same. I think if you stay static and the same, you're going to go backwards. So the first thing I would just tell you, you have a choice. You can either stay the same, which means go backwards, right? You can end up in this market getting better than it is, or getting better during today's market. Or number three, in fairness, you can get totally worse. So you have three choices: get better, stay the same, or get worse. But I even think when you stay the same, you're still going to go backwards, because this market is going to require totally different efforts and totally different perspectives and totally different angles to getting business. That doesn't mean it's a trick. In fact, I wish I won't do this, but I would love to pull up on this screen this lady that I was watching. I was talking about this earlier, and she's this, self-prescribed coach, and I've been in the business since 2007. Right when she said that, I was a little concerned, because that means you've really never seen anything. You got into the business in 2007, but that was when it went down. You've never seen anything, because for 13 straight years after that, quarter after quarter, the market went up. The opening lines of this lady, and I know there was a few of you here, but it's very quick. Just want to get your perspective. She said, I'm going to teach you how to go take listings. And then she starts off with, you're going to have to call everybody you know. Number two, you're going to have to prospect on the phone. And then number three, you're going to door knock. And then these big X's, like, a Family Feud thing comes out. Just kidding. Those are the old ways of doing business. We don't do that anymore. In today's market, I'm going to tell you now, subscribe to my channel. And I'm like, click, 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 click. I get it so fast. And she then says, #1 way to get business today, social media. That was the #1 thing she said. And I thought, man, are we really that off on what it takes to succeed in real estate today? And the thing is that things got so off. And let me give you other examples of agents in the last little bit. Let's just say a year ago, I sit down with agents, Jordan, I'd say, hey, sir, how are you doing? Oh, I'm doing pretty good. I haven't seen you around much. Well, yeah, I really haven't been working much. I mean, prospecting much. And I said, okay, well, how are you getting your business? And this is always the case. And if you're one of these people, well, God bless you. But if you were one of the ones I had this conversation, because I had it multiple times the last several years, I'm just so fortunate. I just feel like I've really figured out this law of attraction thing, or I've really figured out that, God's really taking care of me, and things just keep lining up, and in fact, I haven't prospected and made a single phone call all year. It's just been people calling me or my social media. Yeah, well, that fantasy of the most unprecedented times in the history of the US in regards to homes being purchased, falsified or basically manipulated interest rates that really don't exist, and all the different changes that you're seeing so radically, that seem so radical, but really are so normal that are happening, makes it to where people's mindsets get skewed as to what it means to succeed. So here's the number one question all day that I've been wanting to ask, and this is the question. What is your work ethic? Man, and there is not one thing sexy about that. I'm serious. There's nothing exciting about that. There's nothing like, oh, yeah. And yet, the people who are making a lot of money still in this business somehow have figured out how to actually work. And I don't care whether they're newer to the business or a newer licensee, or whether they're a longtime seasoned agent, the ones who are making a tremendous amount of money have figured out that waiting for business or buying business, and I mean that includes lots of internet leads, and I'm going to go buy all this business. It doesn't mean you can't do some things, but ask any team leader today. Every lead is more expensive. Every aggregator is more expensive. And how about this? Has anyone ever done the math on this? How many internet leads will be purchased? I've said this before, so maybe one of you remember. So if you remember, you can say, how many internet leads will be sold this year? Yes, I tell you that. Who said that? You, yeah. 1 billion. 1 billion. Now, I don't know if you know that. Do you know how many millions are in a billion? How many millions are in a billion? 1,000. Do you know how many homes will be sold in the United States of America this year? Let's just say it's going to be close within a few thousand of this. How many homes are going to be sold in the US this year? How much? 4.4. That seems to be a far cry from 1,000 millions. 1 billion leads will be sold. And all of these people who call on them, they think, oh, but they're much warmer. Are they? Are they always warmer? I mean, I watch people all over the place who are either still waiting for business to happen. They just watched The Secret. So therefore, they're going to sit with, what is her? Rhonda, what's her name? What's her last name? Rhimes?
Oh, yeah.
Rhimes. They're going to wait. They're going to keep a real open attitude, and business is going to flow. Or number two, they're going to go buy the business, and then they find out really quick. My favorite thing, and Isaac, I'm not supposed to pick on Isaac Randy because he doesn't like me to pick on him, because I've been told that I can't pick on him. Even from Jennifer, I can't pick on him. But I'm going to pick on him. I'm talking to you.
It was his name that I didn't pick out of the bowl.
Oh, what? Did you grab his name first?
Yeah.
Was it really? He leaned out Jackson. He goes, I just can't wait. I hope it's Isaac's name. He goes, see, everybody's picking on him. That's good. He needs to be picked on. That is awesome. Of course, Isaac is like, we got to have leads. I'm seeing all these internet leads. I'm seeing all these teams. I'm not saying you can be on a team in here. I'm just saying we're going to talk about what you need to add to your arsenal. But he's like, I need these. Maybe I need internet. So what do? I'm like, okay, fine. I buckle, and I buy these leads. Adam, for 3 months, how many deals do you think have come from that? Exactly 0. If you didn't know, he put 0. And I actually will give him the credit that he's pretty solid at following up. He's relentless. He's a grinder. He did it in baseball. But the fact is do you even have a qualified human being from any of these?
One. Yeah, one.
And how much time, just actually kind of curiosity, how much time have you spent prospecting them? I don't even know the answer to this. Take how many hours a week or a day, if you added it up over the last 3 months, how many hours do you think you've prospected to get this one amazing qualified person who probably won't buy?
I would say,
I mean, be honest, like I'm thinking you're gonna tell me 30 something hours. Or is it less?
I try a little less. Maybe like a week, I'd probably say I'm somewhere, 10 hours a week probably. So
On that leads.
yeah.
And how many weeks have you done that in a row, give or take?
4 8. I'd probably say 12.
12 weeks at 10 hours a shot.
Wow.
That was what less? That's 120 hours. That is an awesome rate of return. I just want you to get perspective. Now, here's what's interesting. How many listings have you taken? But Joanna, do you know how many listing appointments he's set in the last 6 weeks? Just guess. How many do you think he's set in the last 6 days? Actually, you know what? 8 weeks. How many do you think he's set?
So if he's taken 8 listings.
He's a new licensee. Now, he does have a good closer. I'm reading.
Yeah, well.
But he still set the appointments. So
So
how many listing appointments do you think he has set this month? Or that's the last 8 weeks?
16, I'm gonna say that he's getting 50% of his listing appointments.
In the last 8 weeks, how many listing appointments have you set that are not my sphere?
Not your sphere. There you go now.
What? Well, what you mean you set?
He's trying to guess. Wait, hold on, set or like, well, you actually listen to a guy?
No, just that.
Oh,
That
okay, that's
in the last 2 months, how many, in the last 4 weeks, how many listing appointments have you set?
probably 4. You know it, yeah, probably 4 is my nine.
Did you go on any of them?
One on them.
Just you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to point out something that somehow, like all new licensees, he figured out how to sell real estate. Then the guy who's in his 29th year this week, that he stopped prospecting for listings, Joanna. Shocking. Have you had any buyer sales yet?
I got screwed up part one, but yeah.
Walked into a builder, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, that's.
Yeah. But you've had listings that have sold.
Yeah.
Yeah. But don't prospect for listings anymore because you might sell something, right? It's not really, I just want you to think about like where you're spending your time, which is what we're going to get to.
Sure,
And it's not even a criticism because the thing is he prospects.
I was gonna say, you're not, you might feel like you're getting called on the carpet, but I'm doing the same thing. I'm not calling people and I need to be.
Right.
And
Well, this is why we're having this
That's why you're
conversation,
here.
right? No, that's why we're having you're spot on.
Mhm.
Like, so I commend him for prospecting, like the reality. But the thing is that it's the best state. I love the best statement. What did Wayne Gretzky say? He said, I skate to what? Where did he say I skate to?
where the puck's gonna be.
Where it's going to
Where
be.
it's gonna be.
So when interest rates are basically a whopping 0 and everyone on earth can qualify, then it would be pretty wise to go kill it with buyers.
Mhm.
But the reality is that the level of competition for any type of, here's the thing, a well-priced listing still sells. A qualified buyer still can't really buy, especially as most of them are in the first-time home buyer side segment. So I just want, I want to challenge your work ethic. I want to challenge where you're spending your time. Because if you don't look at those two things in a market, you're going to then just you're going to act like nothing's happened. You're going to act like nothing's changed. And yet everything has changed in this market. And it doesn't mean you won't have a buyer sale. It doesn't mean you can't get an internet lead to convert. It doesn't mean that there's not a social media even deal that'll come off of your social media. But almost none of those things I just mentioned seem to be very predictable. And so the challenge right now is that people keep chasing things that used to work because of the sources that they're focusing on. So get really serious about how you're going to approach this business right now. Because if you'll approach it right, you'll have no problems. And you just won't. But the challenge is that people are doubling down on the very thing that's not working. You may say, well, I'm going to keep grinding this out. I'm going to call more or I'm going to wait longer. And that's not going to be the case in this business. You're not going to win. You're just going to suffer or be out of the business. And I mean, I actually like what Grant Cardone just recently said. He said, survive till 25. That's kind of his new tagline. Survive till 25. Now, I think you can thrive because I can look back in my history, the most greatest times of my career, I have thrived during the most difficult moments. And all the changes I would echo that I made in regards to the companies and the sale of California were all on the anticipation of the fact that things were going to radically change. I got my house in order. Some of you didn't like the fact I got my house in order, but again, until you sign the leases, then I appreciate your opinion, but we got our house in order. I don't have to walk in. People keep coming in my office, like yesterday again, today, even in the lobby. You seem so calm. I am. They go, you really are. Yeah, I'm not faking it. I'm actually calm. I am calm because I know everything's in order. So the thing is can you be calm because everything's in order? Can you move through your day in calmness because you have it all in the right order? And I think that's a perpetuation of business and everyday business model that you're always going to improve your business. But just let's again, first, your work ethic. Second, this is one. Here's number two. This is why I was doing this thing with Isaac, is that I want to ask you, what are the sources of your business? Now, look, there really are. I used to say there's three elements of business. There's immediate, there's future, and then there's stupid. And I would usually list all the things that were stupid to do first, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to offend you, Jordan. I don't want you to be offended here, right? That's usually my objective. I offend someone? Okay, so let's at least first, and again, I know this seems like, man, this is so rudimentary. I always look, people always like, it's a master class for experienced agents. Really, what's the master class for experienced agents? I don't know anyone who's like been more experienced than me than in this business because of all the coaching I've done. Really tell me what the master class is all about.
The basics.
Exactly. It's mastering the fundamentals. And somehow people think there's some secret. There's no secret to this business. There's not one of you who shouldn't be making a fortune right now. But you've chosen either, when by the time this list is up, you're going to go, oh, I've made some choices. Now I can go with the fact that you maybe haven't made them consciously, but I'm here to make sure you wake up. And if you wake up, I can tell you, you won't have any problems. But some people are still doing this thing, right? They're waiting, they're buying, and very few people are, just in so many words, going out to get it, to get the business, like meaning prospect. And you every day have a choice. And so, oh yeah, that's old school. Oh, leverage, really? I have 500 people that I leverage my life on. Do you here's a stat for you. Do you know that 60% of the agents in the USA have not sold a single piece of real estate?
Wow.
Do you know that even in Everest, which is the most productive, especially the most productive office in the state of Utah, the #1 office in the world for Century 21, 40% of the agents in this company haven't sold a piece of real estate.
Like ever, or just in?
No, this year.
Oh,
This year, 60% this year, US 40%. And I'm saying, well, wow, I'm beating the average. Well, still, I can't believe that 4 out of 10 people have not sold a piece of real estate. And by the way, some of these people are what you might consider to be highly productive human beings in the game of real estate, legends in the industry, known for, and they've sold like maybe 1 or 0. It's crazy when you think about it. Again, it's not a criticism. It's like, basically, it's like, wake up. It's the statement. I remember I heard it it's heading east looking for a sunset in the west. You're not going to find the answers if you don't figure out your work ethic and you don't figure out the sources in which you choose to go after. So just from a standpoint of immediate, and just for time, I know many of you know the answers to this, but just as a reminder, right? Learning's remembering, but FSBOs. And the key thing is here is old and new. Some of the best listings that Isaac's taken have been old expireds, or I don't know if it's old expireds or FSBOs. What was it? Old expireds? Old expired. Some of the best listings he's taken have been old expireds. Okay, so old, and the same thing for expireds. Okay, Number 3, SOI. Now, here's the thing, I put SOI on immediate because I also believe that it's considered, we're gonna have 2 lists here and future. But your SOI is gonna be on future and immediate. You're gonna get results in both areas at times. Oh, I'm so glad you called. We're looking to buy. But I will say this about SOI in being immediate business. They're not typically waving a flag saying, I want to sell or I want to buy. So the one thing I can say about a FSBO, an expired, is they want that. I can also, and I'm happy to put, I'm just going to put here internet leads. I have no problem with that being one of your immediate business sources, but you have to have some levels of immediate business. Now, the key here is, I don't care whether this is by the door or whether it's by the phone, it's irrelevant. But whatever you feel so inclined to do, most of the beginnings of my mornings were spent in a phone or on a phone. And the most of my career, then I would spend from 1 to 3 p.m. I would be knocking doors. And I think it's hilarious. I will tell people, go knock 5 for sale by owners a day or expires. And they'll be like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I still to this day only know one person who has maintained that as a reality. And I made a fortune by just knocking on new and old expireds and for sale by owners. I would knock 2 or 3 doors to the left of the expired, cross the street, and knock on 5 doors and few, and then I would say to all those people, hey, do you know the story with that house right there? Hey, do you know the phone number for those people? I work with a lot of buyers and sellers. I'd love to see if I could help them. Oh yeah, let me get my word directory. Some of you don't know what that is. Everybody's numbers. Even those who don't go to church, they have their number. They know where you are. All right. And my point is that like you can get anything, but if you don't do the work and then you don't have the sources in line, you're screwed. This is not a complicated business. It's just not. All right. So for sale by owners, expireds, SOI, all right, internet leads, NODs, all right, notices of default. For me, that would be the immediate stuff. Now you can make, why say SOI? Because let's put over here on SOI for future. Let's just put these ones up. CPAs, attorney. And on the attorneys, 3 areas, specifically estate, divorce, and bankruptcy. Those can be immediate deals to where these are your sphere, right? On the other third one is insurance agents. Okay, you should have at least a handful of those people in your sphere, which again makes it to where when the CPA tells that single gal or guy, hey, you need to buy a house, you're like getting, run over here with taxes. Immediately, he's going to call and go, hey, April, sell them a house. Call them. Here's their number. There's lots of people that turn to these people for their advice and their counsel. Do you have them in your back pocket? Are you developing relationships during BKs, divorces, and estate? Every single one of those is a real estate transaction somewhere in the midst of it. There's thousands of attorneys out here. Do you have relationships with them and your CPAs? Right? So look, you meet, and we're going to get to these are the sources, but you cannot go to after all of them. All right. Your SOI for future, CPAs, insurance, and attorneys, then just listed, just sold. Right? Again, all by door or by phone. And I'll do this with people like, well, isn't it a little more complicated than this? No, only because you think it is. It's not. It's just not. So if you have immediate and you have future, and by the way, what I would tell you is the dumb stuff would be mass advertising, and that would include even the internet. That would be mass email or farming out into an area of people you don't know. Like this, the dumb stuff is the waiting and the buying. Don't do that. Years ago, I used to even put up open houses. I would not actually say that today. I was just talking to an agent who told me that they did an open house and they had 40 people come through. 40. They picked up 3 clients from it. Every single aggregator from Zillow to Realtor.com is trying to take your sphere and make them there. And then take that sphere, Jordan, and sell it back to you or to another agent. So one of the things I've appreciated recently with open houses is that you get in the way of the aggregator and you usurp it and step into it so that you're not having to buy it or wait for it to happen. And although you may say, well, wait, people come to the open house aren't my sphere. No, but they'll become your sphere if you make good connections. Okay, any thoughts so far?
So you would put open houses under future or immediate?
I would do immediate.
And then where would you put farming? Done?
Um,
I'm just wondering.
Sometimes.
I'm just wondering.
I used to think that, and you know what? It's like a politician. If they change their mind, you think something's gone so sideways with them, right? I would tell you that if you were to tell me there was a particular area that you like if I wanted to dominate like Walker Lane and Cottonwood Lane, and I wanted to be the person that was known, and I was going to knock on all those luxury homes, and I was, you know what? I think there would be benefit from that. So the thing is I would certainly say this, that farming is future business. I don't know if I would label, because anytime I know that someone's going to go out and knock a door, even if you might say, well, it's the same door I knocked on 3 months ago or 2 months ago, I would tell you still, you're better off than sitting in this office or sitting in your house. So I don't think I would call it dumb. You know, over the years, I've really thought about that. I used to think like, well, it's dumb that people would just call internet leads. No, I don't think it's dumb. I just think it's timing. And right now, it is not a market where internet leads are as solid as they used to be. Will that come back in the next probably 18 months? Yeah. And then because the puck is moved over there, you go there and you spend more time there. And then here's the deal. If imagine this, if Zach, if Isaac would have spent 120 hours a year and a half ago doing what he was doing, do you think that he would have more buyers than he'd even know what to do with?
Yes,
It's okay.
house there.
You know that, right?
Yeah.
You know that firsthand. So it's not that it's dumb. It's just, maybe how about this? It's dumb when the timing's wrong. And so the thing you have to take a step back and say, okay, where am I going to spend my time? Look, business is about getting the most out of your effort. Business is about getting the most profit out of every action and every single thing you do. That's it. How do you maximize your profit in relationship to your time? And whether you're a team leader, whether you're a team member, maximize your time. That's the key. So when you maximize, so now let's go. Okay, so you have to have at least 3 sources. So I've seen most of you all take notes. So you look at this and look, could you add other things? You could, you know, client appreciations, again, what we future. Can you do buyer seminars? Could you do live Facebook to your, make sure do, but if you just did one, if you just picked one thing on the immediate and at least 2 other forms of business. So again, I do love what I know he said this for a long time. Dave Parker will say, look, pick something and master it. Now, my opinion is that I don't like putting all my eggs in one basket. I could have put all my eggs in that basket on the buying side for 13 straight years. Today, I can't put all my eggs in one basket if I just prospected 120 hours. And you know, Zach, even if he gets that one buyer to go under, what's the rate of return? Did you get the most bang out of your buck, which is your time?
We did the math, it's roughly $83 an hour.
There you go. Did you?
Yeah, Jason did it.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, right? So the thing that you got to look at and go, okay, hold on a second here. What are my choices? So this is what I want you to do. I want you to choose. You have to have 3 sources. All right. And one of them has to be immediate. And the second, I'm going to give the answer is what do you think the second was? But there's literally no debate. What's the number 2? Exactly. This has to be one of your choices. It is the greatest asset that you will build in the history of your life if you will do it right. If you will do it right. Okay, so you got to pick at least 1 immediate, 1 future, which specifically is your SOI, but you got to pick 1 more. You need 3 sources in today's marketplace. So even if you say, man, I'm going to call these internet leads as an example, can you spend 1 hour a day of your prospecting focused on just taking a listing? I can tell you, if you'll just spend, those of you who your focal points are primarily on buyers, just spend 1 hour a day focused on taking a listing. And I am telling you, it will change the whole course of your career. Everything. And imagine if you spent, let's just say this was an example, 1 hour on internet leads, 1 hour on your sphere, and then you pick one other source and you said, you know what? 1 hour on trying to take a listing, I'm just going to call it just listeds and just solds. And people go, wow, but it's cold calling. What business do you think you're in? The last 13 years have taught you to be in what's called the retail business. I'm going to wait for them to come in. But you know what I find interesting? I spent $1,200 this last weekend at the Nordstrom sale, Adam. You're proud of me. He's a dynamic dresser, Brenda Lee. If you notice that, he's kind of gotten serious about how he looks, hasn't he? From the good old days when you were renting to him, right? Did you already know that? She was his landlord years and years ago. Yeah. But my point is I went to Nordstrom's to the anniversary sale. Now, this is interesting. Her name is Kamala. Kamala is from Pakistan. And guess what? Kamala has been there for years. And she always asks, tell your wife, Jennifer, hello. Every time I'm in there, I just love your wife. I'm like, I'm right here. Do you love me? I'm the credit card. Yeah, but so right. So the one reason I knew there was an anniversary sale. Guess how I knew about it? Guess what Kamala did? She texted me. And guess what? I didn't show up when I said I was going to. Shocker. Just like a listing, they didn't let you come out. They didn't show up for their appointment. Guess what she did again? I missed you. I mean, on my phone, I'd read it. Like, here it is, this person in the retail sales business, Aaron, and she's prospecting. Hey, just so you know, I'm like, yeah, I need some clothes, lost some weight, Hey, I'll be on one of those evenings next week because I get the Nordstrom card, you get the early access to the sale. And then I didn't show up. And then I get another text. She texts me 3 times saying, hey, when are you coming in? And all of a sudden on Saturday afternoon, I walked in. Of course, 1 hour before they're about to close. That's just how it works. And yet she took all the time until 10 minutes even after, and I was swiping $1,200 away. Got my new fancy white shoes yesterday that I was wearing there. Okay. But my point is she was prospecting and she's in the retail business. We're in the official direct sales business. And we're like, well, I'm going to treat this today like it's retail. Oh, wait, you're going to come. I listened to Abraham Hicks. I watched the secrets. My vibration frequencies are in alignment. I'm going to wait. It's going to show. It's going to happen. It's just, it's ridiculous. Like there's no reality check to that, right? Don't make it worse than it is. Don't make it better than it is. Just call it as it is. Okay, what is this market? Okay, now what is my work ethic? Okay, am I going to work hard? Which I got ahead of myself. But number 2, because I have something else I want to share with you, but number 2 is the sources. And I'm watching people really like mess up the sources. And for some of you are like, well, wait, is he going to change? I still remember, you know what my biggest aha was about buyers? Does anybody know the guy by the name of Neil Schwartz? Jason, you know Neil Schwartz, right? You've met Neil over the years. Great broker, well, not owner. He sold his company. He wanted me to buy his over. I'm like, I'm not buying in Orange County. I'm trying to get out of California. No. And anyway, he ended up selling his company, but I talked to him probably every week, at least every other week, we'd still chat. And I remember during the middle of 2008 and 9, I remember distinctly, maybe it was 9 and 10, right in there. He said, I have all of my agents only spending 1 hour on trying to get listings. The remaining prospecting time is to do one thing, go find a buyer. Because interest rates, right, they dropped to like 2.5%, 3.5%. Anyone who could buy wanted to buy, and it was a buyer's market. So the thing that you have to recognize is that I'm saying you're going to switch back and forth throughout time. You just will. And yet the reality is I'm watching people not maneuver like the cheese has moved, ladies and gentlemen. Your work ethic has to be different. Your sources of business have to be different. And what I wanted to point out to you, I have a few rules on work ethic. I know that 15+ hours a week of prospecting always equals an income of 250K if you can consistently do this for 42 weeks a year. Other thing rules that I used to play my work ethic by is the number of contacts a day would equal the number of deals a year. That interesting. If you're talking to 5 or 6 new people a day, you're probably doing 5 or 6 deals a year. If you're talking to 30 or 40 or 50 people a day, guaranteed you're on track or getting pretty darn close or creating the momentum to get to 40, 50 deals a year. Now, isn't it exact science? No, these were just tricks or things I would pay attention to. And the third thing was this for me in regards to just pure numbers was I would do this. This is not an accident that I pretty much know these numbers. I believe there are 240 work days in a year. Now, again, that's taken a lot of time off. Give or take, that's about 42 weeks in a year that I'm willing to work. That means I'm willing to take off 10 weeks in a year. That means 2.5 months. I don't even need to prospect. But out of those 240 work days, I knew that if I set one appointment a day, everything worked, everything, which meant that I set 240. Oftentimes, like in my coaching with an April and others, I'm like, all I care about is that you set one appointment every day. And I love, like Jordan, you set how many appointments yesterday? 2. And Aubrey, you only set how many?
I said 2 now. I saw one this morning, so.
No, that was yesterday. How many you set? 1,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
1? Well, Jordan wanted to make sure he knew that it was more than that was this morning, right? But my point is that, okay, so 240 set. I would do this all the time, Lourdes, in my math, and I did, because I had to be convinced that if I worked, it was going to work. What I didn't want to have happen is, well, maybe if I do this, I mean, maybe it won't happen. And so when I was even Isaac's age, he turns 21 here in a week or two, I wanted to convince myself at 21 getting this business, it works. So that's why I know this so well, is because I know that if I set 240, and let's just take some basic math, that means I know people say, well, why would you only go on or half of the appointments? Because they list with someone else. They just blow you off and don't show up, or they don't. And again, I don't care whether this is buyers or sellers based on this. Now, if you have a preference, great. But if you just set one new appointment every single day, if you spent, even if it took you 8 hours to set the one, look at what will happen here in a minute. You go on half get pre-qualified, half show up, half let you come out and try to say, hey, list my house, or so many words, or I'll meet with you to consider you as a possibility. All right, so that means you have 120 appointments that you attend every single year. That's it, a year. You say, what, isn't that a lot? I don't do the math. 52 weeks. Aubrey, do you have in your time in your schedule to go on at least 2 appointments in a week?
Yes, sir.
But that's not for that. That's only, you get to take still 2.5 months off. I mean, I just want to give perspective here. Can you go on 2 appointments in a week? And the answer is yes, only though, if you're consistent with your work ethic, right? So if I set one, I only go on half. And again, it doesn't matter whether it's a buyer or seller. If I go on half, let's just take, look, my closing ratio, it's still my claim to fame, Adam, is I'm 100% on my closing ratio this year on listings. Now I've listed my mom's house, my uncle's, I'm just kidding, but I haven't. But at my best case scenario, or not my best, when Aaron would come over and hang out with me, I had my little team, I was at 87% closing ratio. So I don't need you to be 87%. What I need you to be is 50%, meaning that you're going to get 1 out of every 2 deals. 1 out of 2 buyers buy a home, 1 out of 2 listings list. All right. So that means 60, either buyers or sellers, qualified or listed. 60 actually say that let's just put this, they sign something. They sign an agency agreement, they sign a listing, they sign something. And then I take 60. And I know that if I get a solid qualified person who can afford a home today, or I get a great listing, I still know that basically 75% or 80% of those homes will sell, right? Or they'll buy, which means give or take, it's actually, by the way, it's 48, by the way, is 80% of 60, by the way. But let's just round it up to 50. What is the average commission in this company? 12,500. But because we're realtors, we're going to round it up. All right. We don't need to. Actually, someone do this for me, because I used to do this when it was, I remember when I sold my first house that was over $200,000. I took my first listing, by the way, ever in the history of my career on the 4th of July, 29 years ago this month. All right. It was it was a home out in Okra Shadows for $89,000. That same home now is $500,000. Right? When we talk about real estate being good, it's a good example. Okay, so what's 50 times 12.5? And that's 706,
625,
what is it?
625.
Did you do that by a calculator?
I'm just really smart.
I was gonna say, I got Rain Man here. I got Aubrey the Rain Man. Like, how much was it?
625.
Yeah.
Now, I know that may not be very exciting to earn $625,000 in a year, but it is a good start. All right, it's a good start, Aaron. Is it not? Now, the thing is, I'm not even giving you credit for extraordinary skill sets. I'm talking about the fact that only half the people show up to meet with you. Only half the people go, oh, you seem like you're okay. Okay, I'll work with you. Half of them. And then I'm saying, like, okay, about 3 out of 4 of them decide that they're like, okay, I'll work with you. That's over $500,000 of income. And all you have to do, Joanna, is what?
Call people.
Well, yes, and
Do it.
that's it. So I would make all these grand plans like this. And then I would come back over here. So I'd look at this and this is when Jennifer would go, can't you just set something realistic? No, nothing great has ever been created that's realistic. Nothing. Right. And so I got so mad, Jordan, when I was in my early 20s, because I said all these and I would do the math and I'd be like, how come I can't do that? And then I realized, as much as I thought that I was a hard worker, I was when I worked. The difference was I wasn't working enough. And I wasn't basically doing the right things even while I was working. I actually don't think any of you in here are lazy. I just think that you're choosing to do things that don't have the impact and the profitability return. It's not like I think you come into this office and you literally just completely waste away the day. You'll probably justify it by an email, or you're researching the market, or you're trying to understand what's going on, and all these things that you could say would be good. And people say, oh, that's really good. Good for you. But it doesn't get the result that you want. So all of a sudden, I take this, and this is why these little 3x5 cards that Jason knows I've used for years. But all I would do is like, okay, how do I have that happen? All right, well, number one is set 1 or more appointments a day. That was it. So here's the question. This is the big question. What are you focused on every day? Just sit with that for a minute. You come into the office. You're on your way in. The weekend's over, and you know Monday's. What's the focus? Because this is what I know. You get whatever you focus on. And whatever you focus on is where your energy will flow. It is where it will go. So just ask yourself, like truly, like be honest with yourself. And it's okay. You may say, I don't know. I just kind of think like prospect. Okay. But get more granular. What's the number one focus of your day? And I've often said this, prospecting will become a priority to you when it's a priority to you. That's it. But if you choose to focus on, I got to do this, I got to get this deal, I'm supposed to send this, and well, I need to go talk to Marissa, I need to go talk to Jenny about my deal, and I mean, this is the perfect time for me to go talk to Russ or Jason. I mean, it's 10 a.m. I mean, just ask yourself, like, where are you putting your focus? Because imagine this for a moment. If you had the right work ethic, if you weren't waiting and you weren't just out buying business, but you were going to go out and get it, and you had a strong work ethic, and you picked 3 distinct sources, and you said, my number one thing today, my number one thing, everything else is secondary, and you set one, you will make a fortune, and you will never worry. Because just like I was a day or two ago, I think it was yesterday, my days running one to another, but I was with Aaron. And exact words that Aaron said, because then I know this is a lot of you in here. Oh, if you put me in front of a client, and what did you say? Isn't that shocking? Even Aaron, just, right? No, but seriously. So the only thing that matters, and I didn't necessarily get into this detail with Aaron yesterday, but all this is all that matters. I mean, Joanna, I known you long enough. If you get in front of someone, how's it gonna go? Reasonable?
Pretty
Better than
good.
50%?
Pretty good.
Maybe 80, right?
Probably about 80.
Is it gonna be?
Yeah.
That's shocking. Jokingly, not. Zach, if you get in front of someone, what happens? Good things?
Great things.
Okay, well, but you in front of two people, like, so how about, you're in front of four people, how many people, and they qualify, and they can meet with you, how many are you gonna get?
All of yours, of course.
All right.
No, I don't.
Well, no, what would be what's your best guess, or what, from what you've experienced in the past?
Probably 3 out of 4.
So that's the thing, is that if you get with three people or four people that are either wanting to buy or sell, what happens for you, Brenda? Is it gonna be 1 out of 4, 2 out of 4, 3 out of 4?
Getting them out.
I know your mindset is that, but what is absolutely for sure gonna happen? What do you think is the minimum reality of what happens?
Out of 4, 3 for sure.
When I was brand new, Jordan, because Jordan's fairly new in the business, I had an objective that if I went on, this was my goal. This is where I was as a 21-year-old. Go on 5, 1. But from the beginning of my career, Jordan, I was setting an appointment a day. So what did that mean as a new licensee when I was sitting right next out in the hallway in the cubicles next to your mom, April? I knew every week, Jordan, I was going to get what?
5 listings.
And I was going to get, for me, it was a listing. I got a listing every single week, essentially. In my first year in business, guys, I listed over 40 plus properties. And all I did is I made sure this happened. And by the way, some of you have rules to how much you're going to work to make that happen. But there was a day where, there was like the kind of the thing where sparks fly from the phone, like the little rotary things, right? I was doing that. I was punching the numbers. There was no such thing as a dialer. Dialers 29 years ago, they had just merged. It's like they were still printing the book. And I go, Lord, do you want to see a home? Well, yeah, let me flip through the pages. There was no pictures of homes on computers. There was no efficiencies like that. It was a book. And they had DOS that they were trying to bring out. And that, like you were like getting a Mission Impossible code. That's what it looked like when you're trying to find a house. And then it never worked. And you heard that AOL dial up, that sound, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And then the internet would never work. The fax machines would never work. And yet the same thing. This is all I focused on. And I don't care. This is the part. Ask yourself, how big is the gap? The gap is a relationship between how good your skills are and they're not. That's it. The better your skills, the smaller the gap. Meaning, does it take you 1 hour to equal 1 appointment? Does it take you 2 hours, 3 hours? Here's the question. Does it matter? What if it takes you 8 hours? Just like you were saying every day. Gals who are sitting in call centers. Anybody worked at like a call center, Discover Card, Amex? Were you on the phone a while?
Yeah,
Well, how long?
with each person, probably about 30, 45 minutes.
Well, and how long through the day were you on the phone?
Oh, that was the full 8 hour.
And then some of you don't know what I've done today. What did you do? Prospected for a full 2 hours
I used to
on the
verify,
phone.
I used to verify 50 deals a day, 1,000 verifications a month for a whole year.
Yeah. So when you're working at Fairbanks or
I
where?
used to work for Associates. Capital.
Associate, that's right, who bought, yeah, right. Okay, so like, when did it become like you, I don't think it'll take any of you 8 hours. None of you, even you, Isaac, not even 8. Okay, just making sure, right? Okay, but I think the gap, right? The gap, just so you know, Aaron kind of goes, man, it must be Robbie and his dad. He always does that. So,
Hey, later, the people here won't let it win.
guys, gonna have to work this way. There's no nepotism, my friend, none.
They'll pick
All right.
on him because they can't pick on you.
Exactly. Okay, so 5 to 1. So I do that, and then I would make 100 contacts a day. I did that forever until, this is the point, by the way, until when? Until my skills got so good that I got to this point. Unacceptable for not one appointment for every hour prospecting. Aaron, I know you've been, Joanna, you stood right next to me. Jason, you stood right next to me doing that. It's not, this isn't like, well, you know, George, you really don't, no, I do understand. I fully promise you, I understand. And just like Isaac with one of the first appointments he said, he goes, so you really think you can get that appointment? Yes, I'm certain I can get the appointment. And he slides his phone and he goes, okay, call. And then of course I set the appointment. He goes, well, that's because I warmed him up. And I said, don't ever doubt me, right? But my point is that I was up to making 100 contacts a day. So the thing is that I don't know if you need to do that. I don't know what you need to do. I mean, if we sat down individually, I'd say, okay, well, how would you rate your skill sets? But no matter what the equation is when did it become okay to walk out of the office or walk out of a neighborhood with you not having set an appointment? When it becomes okay for the day to go by that you don't set one will be the day that you start then saying, well, then this money isn't as important to me. It doesn't matter how long it takes you. Because if you will just set the appointment, everything else falls into place. But if you don't set the appointments, nothing will fall into place. Now, if you want to spend, again, I don't care if you want to spend like 120 hours getting that one buyer, knock yourself out. But I would diversify just a little bit. I would have my hour of prospecting for sellers, hour for internet or buyers, an hour for my SOI. And I think, you know, if someone consistently did 15 hours or more a week of prospecting, you'll set probably 4 to 5 appointments. That'll probably be what will happen. But if you aren't doing that, you're not going to do it. I mean, you're not going to do this. I'm always fascinated, and that's just another way of saying I can't believe people don't see this. As much as I appreciate people like a Brian Burnett, or even a Doug Carey, some of these guys that I consider to be, wow, what such solid examples. Just remember, they are special human beings, and I usually joke about this and people say, you know, that really sounds offensive. Like, okay, they are special people. They are unique in one way. They do ordinary things consistently, which makes them extraordinary. That's it. There's nothing like, I know Dylan has anybody just gone and like split in with Brian Burnett? Has anybody else done that in here? So Aubrey, if you do that, you're going to be like, huh, well, that wasn't that impressive. And you will, I promise you'll be like, what's the big deal? I've had many people who come in over the years would listen to me prospect and go, oh yeah, I can do that. I didn't say that you couldn't. I don't think that you can't.
Consistency.
It's just the fact exactly that every single day I was doing that. See, every single day, or if on a Saturday at 4 p.m. at night, if I didn't have my 10 appointments set for the week, I would say to Jen, hey, come drop me off at the office. I'm going to prospect for 1 or 2 hours from 4 to 6 p.m. By the way, Adam, do you know how many people answer their phone between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. on a Saturday night?
All of them.
Quite a few.
Exactly, everyone. And so I'd set up my whole week just in 2 hours of time because I was willing to not allow my 10 appointments. That was when I wanted 10 appointments. And if I didn't have 10 appointments, that was my number one objective for it. Not selling a house, not putting a deal on a contract, not working with this buyer. My number one job that day and every day that I worked. And by the way, I had a statement I always made, which it was never a work day if I didn't prospect. And it was to set at least 1 or more appointments. And if I did that, everything came together. And Jason, go ahead.
Did you do $1,000 for those 8 a week?
Yes, for the 8.
That's the accountability.
Yeah.
If you didn't set 8, it was 1,000.
And I had 2 accountabilities that really kind of put me over the edge of what I knew I needed. If I didn't set 8 appointments, I paid $1,000, and I did that for a whole year. I never lost. So that's why I'd show up. The second thing is that I made sure I prospected from 8:30 to 11, and that was with John Hunter, and we had 5 checks hanging on the wall to prospect at the exact time I said I was going to. And those checks were there that if I didn't show up, you just take them down. And I know many of you have heard, but some of you haven't. But the little story is I do that John Hunter, and I didn't show up one time because I had to go to inspection. I had to give 7 days notice if I wasn't going to prospect. And I was going to an inspection, Bethany, and I went to the inspection, and it didn't matter. I didn't have 7 days notice, but I knew I needed to be at this inspection. It was worth losing this $100. I come in, of course, the check's down, and the next day, of course, maybe you heard this, but the little area between your shoe right here, it said by John Hunter, who went and bought a brand new pair of shoes, about like looking like those, and it said compliments of George Morris. I mean, it was just a reminder, but you know what? I lost two $100 checks, and that was the first year that I sold 50 plus homes in a year. It was the most simple accountability that just held my feet to the fire for a year. And it was the easiest thing that I did. And I ended up selling, and then, then rest is, kind of the journey of the rest of the game in real estate. But okay, so go ahead.
So I'm trying to wrap my head around the 100 contacts a day thing, because I listened to her on the phone, and because it's SOI, they want to talk for 15, 20, 30,
Sure.
45 minutes. How is the 100 contacts just dialing, or is that actually physically talking to people?
Physically talking to an 18-year-old who has the capacity to have a conversation. Yeah.
Right, okay. So we have to figure out how to cut your conversation short.
So for, if you were to make 100 contacts, but my general rule of SOI is just simply this, assuming that other things like emailing and mailing and things like that, the campaigns are in place, it's just two things. 5 videos, 5 calls, or sorry, not calls, contacts. And the people that don't answer and I leave a voicemail, those are people that I usually leave the video. And the video is just this. Hey, Bethany, George Morris, Century 21, hope you're doing great. Hey, I just wanted to update you on market conditions. There's over 7,000 homes on the market. There's about 1,500 that are selling. Rates are still reasonable. They've actually come down a little bit this week. Just always know I'm here to help you and serve you any way I can in real estate. Hope you have a great day. Just keep me in mind if I can help. Have a great day.
Per year, 5 a year.
5 a day.
They-
Oh,
So
5
out of
SOI
the-
con.
out
Okay,
of
I'm
the-
sorry.
Yeah,
I thought you were
so
saying-
I don't think she should be talking to more than 1 hour of prospecting for SOI. 2 max.
Okay, no, I just thought you meant. never
So
mind.
5 videos that are less than 1, always less
Yeah.
than 1 minute long, right, April? Less than 1 minute long.
Yeah.
She loves videoing.
Yeah.
I
And-
actually do a lot.
I know, do you do now? We haven't talked about it for a
No,
while,
I've done it from the beginning.
I love it. right? I know, I didn't know that. Okay, and then so 5 videos and then five conversations with my sphere.
It's
And-
embarrassing. People will look through my photos and there's like me.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know.
You're like, I'm kind of obsessed.
Right.
Okay, yeah, so and then I'm gonna spend the time on the other people that I don't know.
Well, I was just gonna tell a funny story, like when I first started doing videos, it scared the crap out of my clients, like. I had one client be like, your video came up and I thought there was like an emergency or something.
That is, you
And
wanna
then
buy
she
or
was
sell.
Like, but then I absolutely loved it, yeah, and people respond really well.
It is, well, and my biggest thing, and April
makes
knows this,
sense.
my biggest thing that I want is engagement. I want you to, look at all the influencers, even local ones, and you look at their Instagrams and you sit back, and I mean, even I know Jennifer with what she's doing with her book, and it's always a little frustrating, always loves, by the way, when you comment on her stuff, because it's about engagement. And you see these influencers, then you'll look at the post, and then you look at how many people comment, and it's like their mother, right? And maybe their spouse. And that's not to be critical. It's just the thing is the key to your sphere is to get engagement, to get an interaction, to allow a conversation to occur. You want your show ratios to show up better on for sellers, expires, just listen, just sold, any of your sphere, send them a 30-second video. Hey, I am so excited to meet with you. I actually believe your show ratio can be more than 50%. And that was something I was going to end with. And actually we have just a minute, but just do this for me. You have your calculator out?
Yes, sir.
Okay, here we go.
No,
So, okay, so do 240 appointments set,
Okay.
then times it by 60%. What's that number?
It's 144.
So now instead of 120 appointments, you go to 144, and now times it by, let's just do 75%. So 144 times 75, what's that?
So 108.
So it's 100 plus transactions if your skill sets are good enough to get people to show up, just 10% more people showing up, and you did 25% better, which a number of you said, hey, I'm sure I'd get 3 out of 4. That's the thing is you said that used to, that used to excite me, Aubrey. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's the one how do I do that? And then I could get overwhelmed going 100 deals, like that's 1.25 million. I mean, whatever, right? The money. And then I think, but then I'd have to dial it down, not in the sense of my emotion, but now what's my focus point? And it all came down to doing essentially two things. Improving my skills on a daily basis, which I know you wouldn't be in this room if you weren't committed to it, and those we have online. And number one, my improvement skills. And number two, do what? Set one or more appointments. And all of a sudden we start to realize, like, man, why am I complicating this thing? What am I allowing to get my focus off? What am I doing with my work ethic? What are the sources of business that I'm going after? And you start to realize, man, it's like you always hear, like, if you find a way, like, figure it out. Figure it out. And as you figure it out, good things happen. Is there something really exciting happening out there?
John Opry, John Opry
John.
with his 2 kids selling
Ah.
candy.
Gotcha. Okay.
Very good.
Okay. But my point is that if you start to realize that if you have a desire to figure this out, it's a story that many of you heard, and I'll just blend with this, but there's a story, right, where Isaac played for a team called the Clutch. And here's Isaac. He's got the best coaches, major league pitchers, major league batters, and he's got these incredible coaches, and he's doing all this stuff, and he's playing on the Clutch. And I mean, every single player on his team is absolutely just roping the ball on every pitcher on the other team. But Isaac has now struck out. They're just going through the rotation over and over again. He's now gone up to bat 3 times and has struck out 3 times. From strikeouts to pop-ups. Of course, like a loving father, Adam. I came around the bullpen and I went, hey, come here. Now, so you're like, this is pretty aggressive. Well, maybe, I don't know. But I got down on one knee and I grabbed him by the jersey. And I said, figure it out. And he's all, you've had the best coaches, the best training, figure it out. Have a good time. I'll walk away. Next time at bat, I actually thought it was gonna be a home run, but I don't know if you remember this. You remember this?
It's been multiple times.
Yeah, he's like, I got PTSD. But anyway, well, I remember you actually hit it into left field, and you hit the fence in left field over the infielder. And I was, of course, it's one of those proud moments as a dad. But the fact is that he figured it out. So I just would remind you that there's nothing about this business you can't do, nothing you can't figure out. Like, just figure it out. And stop waiting for the market, waiting for something to happen, waiting for good fortune, or waiting for, the tides to change, or interest rates to go down, or programs. I mean, figure it out. And this is part of figuring it out and recognizing, wait a second, I can do this. Because you can. There's not anybody in here who can't do this. This isn't an exclusive number. It's just you bought into where your focus is. You bought into where your sources are. You bought into what it means to really work hard in this business. But if you'll buy back into some of this stuff and you'll get your focus set right, you'll make a fortune. You'll do more than 48 deals, which is what April's trying to do this year, right? Trying?
She is.
I know. I'm gonna see if she's gonna catch trying. All
Doing it.
right. She'll do more than that. If her focus is right. That's just the nature of the beast. Okay, any thoughts, comments? Guys, thanks for being here. Have an amazing rest of the week. Go kick butt, take names, make it happen. Anything else?
Cool.
Okay, guys. All right, thank you so much.
If you want it.
There we go. Look at that.
I don't have my money with
You
me.
guys want candy? We have
Well, God, it's so loud, buddy.
that's all. We have